let's start with lecture number 2. As I promised, I will be recording lecture for you guys. Okay, so it's about the introduction to HTML, and I hope if you missed out something, this video lecture will cover it for you. Okay, so the first thing is how do you declare a HTML? So you write doc type HTML. Here this exclamation is usually in CSS means to give it a priority to execute first or something. So most probably here exclamation means the exact same thing. Okay, so this is brackets, so we are going to continue now with the structure of the HTML. Okay, so some of the students were saying that, sir, when I open brackets it's so empty. So let's start from there first. So let's create a folder. Let's say I want a folder that will create all the contents of the project. In our case, that project is a web design or a website, we can say. So let's say this is lecture number 2. We go inside it, we write open as. We can do open as brackets project here, or directly right click on the folder and say open as brackets project. Okay, so this project will be entirely empty. Okay, so let's say new file and save it as index.html. Well, index is the name, that means that automatically hosting site will decide index as the first page to execute. Like in object oriented programming, we used to say that static main method is the first method that is executed by the program. Well, you can also say that it's like the starting point where everything begins. Okay, so saying that your document is HTML, and let's say we run it like this, index. So you see this is an HTML. It does not give any kind of error that what is this, what document it is. It knows this is a HTML file. Okay, but declaration of HTML is important if we want new elements to be executed. Like in HTML5 there are some new elements like canvas and SVG, and then there are some more tags that usually behave like div but have the new you can say introduction to the web design, but does not actually give any special difference to the older HTML code. However, let's say we know now that this is an HTML document, so writing HTML tag means that we are sure that inside this all the layout will be designed here. Okay, so every HTML document has a head tag and a body tag. Body tag contains all the actual UI layout inside the HTML. We should give it a tab space. If not tab space, then at least put it 2 space bars spaces. Okay, like this, space. But I prefer tab, so that because tab is easier, typing 2 times space is time consuming. So in head tag, let's say we are declaring first about the title tag, which means that we are telling the application this page is from the certain website. Let's say that website is Zdesk, and then there is home tag. Okay, so in home tag, when I open this, now you will see that it's written Zdesk home. So the Zdesk is the title of the application, and home is the current page that we are viewing inside that certain or particular tab. Next thing is we can also put a fav icon. Fav icon is actually the tab icon. This tab here, you can see there is Mozilla tag icon. There is W3 school tab with W3 tag icon. This is a WebFX website with FX icon. Okay, so this is like a logo. Actually, the logo we place it here. Icon type is equal to image/x icon. Okay, then we write href. Let's say we have some images here. Let's say we get some images. We don't need everything here, so let's say I'm using the same image that I used in class, but actually my own image, not the same but my own image. Okay, so control space. Now you can see that we have put it in the same folder where this index.html file is, so it's detecting it automatically. After saving this, you will see that there is now icon here. Okay, if you can't see it, please use glasses or magnifier. Okay, so because this is not the class projector, you are supposed to see it clearly here. Okay, so anyways, the next thing is how to link different files. Well, there are two ways to link external files, and there are two types usually that we link with the HTML document. One is CSS and one is JavaScript. Okay, so the both of these can be linked here. So let's say rel style sheet means we are talking about CSS. No need to write text/CSS, but for understanding I'm writing here. Okay, so the href, or let's say you don't have a CSS file right now in your document, so we will create one. So this is a new file entitled to control s. Let's say we name it style, but you need to actually input the extension, so style.css. After inputting style.css, now we have style.css here. If you put a dummy file without any extension, it will also be suggested here, and it will be visible here, but writing the extension is important, otherwise we don't know what this file is. Now look, there is one small difference here. Okay, that is JavaScript does not use href, instead it uses sources. So let's say script, and I'm saying source is equal to, and let's say we don't have a JavaScript file, so I'm saying this is a new file, and this is style.js, because actually we are animating the style, so I'm writing it style.js here. So style.js. For now we are opting it out, but I thought maybe putting in this video lecture, you know that there is difference between referencing the CSS and integrating a JavaScript file. Okay, so usually you reference the class, because class itself is a reference. In Java we know that. So here is the same case, that CSS means cascading style sheet, but actually it contains the style classes. So it's a class, so it's referenced, but script is a source because we actually integrated in our application. For now I'm deleting this because we are not working on JavaScript right now. So this is the basic structure of an HTML file. Okay, now there is one thing I mentioned, that there are some tags that you put in body, but that are not necessarily compulsory to be put, but they do give a user developer they do improve the developer experience. Okay, so one is a name bar and other is h1 tag and body. We are not body, footer. I am assuming here that this is our landing page of a very new website named Zepdesk, for example. So the landing page must have an HTML tag. Why do we need it? Because it is the core part of actually search engine optimization. What is search engine optimization? Let's say I am searching Ali Mubin Memon. So there are many websites that actually know that Ali Mubin Memon is the part. Let's say zebfm.org. Then there is Instagram. You can see my pics. So actually I have done a lot of work, so my images are indexed because of the web design's basic concept of h1 tag and other usual requirements that are required. You can see some of the painting art that I have done. I shared this actually advertisement on LinkedIn, so they are all in my indexes. Okay, this is not me, and I hope that I don't get to be like him, because this uncle is very scary. I don't know, no need to brag a bit, but it's okay. I said it, let's forget I said that. Anyway, so here is this small article. You can see why can an h1 tag improve my website SEO. Well, actually it does, but this will justify you why it's important. Okay, anyway, so this is a navigation bar, this is an h1 tag. We put it to so that in search engine optimization our results are actually easily detected by Google, because Google follows some standard that if you design an HTML page like this, then I will be able to recognize this page and easily put it on the. Okay, so actually ask for this, that you put the h1 tag in the landing page so that it is easily indexed in the Google search engine, because it's the Google search engine's requirement. Okay. Anyway, so continuing from there. So now the question is, how does this look in the DOM, and why do we use DOM? So you can see in this picture that if you draw this decision tree, actually this is like a decision tree, and DOM makes this structure to actually quickly find the certain tag. So now if we don't want to do anything in head tag but in body is input tag, so we know that the body has one input tag, and if there is another child that is div and it contains another div or image, so do we know that HTML body input div and they are all located in DOM. And so in body, let's say we want to take there is a child named div of the body and contains image tag. So the algorithm says the shortest way is to neglect the other child that does not contain that thing. So we know that everything is in HTML, so then there is body, and the body contains the div, and then there contains image. So we don't have to go in these steps, the input tag or this one. We know that there is an image tag directly, so it actually reduces the time for the browser to actually locate that thing. Now why do we locate these things? And first of all, let's say we are talking about JavaScript or CSS, and we are saying that kindly put a CSS class like containing image with width or height of 200 by 300 px. So this means that the browser knows that the body, and then there is div, then there is image that contains this image tag. So it will not waste time looking in head tag or looking at the input tag of the body. Okay, so it knows the quickest way is to just directly go from HTML body div to image. So this is the benefit of DOM. Anyway, so furthermore, do we need these nav bars and footer in the orderly manner? No. So see here, I have written footer at top and nav at bottom, so it does not affect in anything, because it's actually the CSS that defines that the navigation should be on the top or on the left and footer should be at the bottom. Okay, so these tags are just merely names given to them to actually make it easier for the developer to understand. For example, if I write the most popular section related element tag, that is div, so if I write these three divs, and this one contains h1, this one contains navigation, of course there will not be a label given navigation, or not necessarily in software house the other developers are using comments. We don't know these three tags, div tags contains these. So when I open this image, it will contain obviously not this navigation in English, but it will contain some tag like a span with a hyperlinks, many types of like this. So we don't know looking at this which one is the navigation or what. So this nav footer, this actually makes us easily understanding, nothing else. I usually don't use this, but if you use this, that is a good practice, and I am certainly making myself habitual to use these tags, so that even if I have to write the same div CSS like a div element tag, but the benefit is that from looking and looking in the first time, I will easily know that this is the nav bar and this is the footer bar. Okay. Now let's go towards the div element, and then there is span element. Okay, so the div and span are usually section creating elements, so they look like something like this. Okay, so this div, when I say div, this is a simple section with nothing special, but the default property of it is that it is a block element, and block element is the one that says, let's say I'm redrawing this for you guys to easily understand. Block says if this whole white page inside the MS Paint is a computer screen. Okay, so I'm saying that this red div this red box is actually a div. Sorry for my hiccups. Okay, so this div element with red background should contain 200 by 200 width and height. Okay, so it's only covering the area that it needs, but this one is habitual of actually capturing the whole area, this whole row. Okay, so we all know that in computer everything is in rows and columns, that is called grid. Okay, so even though this div requires only this area, this one, let me highlight it in some way, this area, the yellow area, but it will say no, I will take this whole area, this one. So it will take this whole area, and it does not care whether it needs that much area, but it will cover all of this area. So this whole area is like, no, I'm not giving them the free space, it's mine. So it actually speaks something like this when you talk about div element, because by default it has CSS property display block. Okay, so this is the CSS property for it, something like this. So this is a div element. By default it's a block, so it means that it can, what we get the understanding from this is that it will take all this row, and it also follows the CSS properties width and height, so it supports those width and height properties. Okay, but span element is like masoom bacha, you can say, that says I don't have the authority to give myself some existence. So when you say you have a span element of 200 pixels and height of 200 pixels, it will be invisible to the naked eye, so you will not see anything here. Okay, so when you write span element, it will give you nothing. However, when you put some kind of image, let's say there is an image with black background inside a span element, then it will give it height and width of the same image. Okay, so let's say there is one image I have downloaded of mine, this one. Okay, so by looking here we can say it's 260 by 320 pixels, so let's copy it and put it here. So the span element will cover only the area which its child element supports. Okay, so even though I have written 200 by 200 pixel for the span element, it will only cover area from here. Let me use the brush and some darker color. So this area only will be covered by span element. This whole black side you are looking at, this will be neglected. Okay, so this 260 by 320 pixel, whatever the size of the image is, will be the actual size for the span element. So it means that span is a stretchable element and it does not support the property of width or height. It will only get the width or height from its child element. So if child element is 600 by 600, then span will be 600 by 600. And even if you try to override it and write like something like span with CSS property width of 300 pixel multiplied by 600 pixel, it will not draw that box with those certain pixels. Okay, it will draw the box based on the child element, and in our case that child element is this image of mine, and that is 260 by 320 pixels, something like that. Yes, 260 by 320 pixels. So let's demonstrate here. So let's say I'm writing a div and then there I'm writing a span, and okay, give me a break. Okay, I'm back. So the div element, and let's give it some inline CSS, and let's say it's a background of red with width 200 pixels, height 200 pixels. Okay, and same CSS to span element, but color will be blue so that we can differentiate that this is a div and this is a span. You will only see red here. See, same as the image I have shown you, that there is no span element because there are no child elements. So it means that the span requires some child element. So if I put an image here and write source and same exact source as the given image I put in MS Paint, and I say width of 200 pixels. Okay, well, in image tag you don't need to write height because it will maintain the aspect ratio. If you don't maintain the aspect ratio, it would be something like this. For example, this is image and you said the width should be 200 pixels. It's fine, okay, this is 200 pixels. But if you say the 300 pixels, it will be something like this, and the image's aspect ratio will be destroyed and the image will be stretched and the quality will be reduced. So that's why usually it is preferred to type width only. Okay, until or unless you want to, you can, but I don't prefer and I don't recommend. Okay, so let's say tab, because this is the image is the tile element of image or span tab. Now when I refresh this, you can see the image of a new bean here, but you see there is a bottom, in bottom there is blue background which I put here. Okay, why do you see this blue background? Is because that to maintain aspect ratio, the image tag has 200 pixel width, so it automatically adjusted its height. But this bottom blue color actually tells you that you are inside some kind of a parent element named span. So this is the difference between the two. Now see how greedy div element is, because it knows there is so much space, but it covers all the page. But image tag is not, is quite innocent element. Okay, so if I write green, you will see that both the images will be placed side by side. Okay, it's like in e-commerce products like daraz.pk. You have seen these so many products, like see here in the same case. If sorry for these images, but what can we, all are adults, so let's not brag about this. So let's say this whole image and product. Okay, so this is a whole section inside this div. Let's say this is a hyperlink. You can see it's a display block and everything, but it is a float property which we will learn. It's also like an inline block, as I told you. So you will see both the behaviors here in this video. Okay, by default span is an inline element. Okay, so it's inline element, and this is a display block, and this is a display inline. Sorry, I will write again, display inline. Okay, this is the property of this CS. That's why if someone asks you what is different between block and inline, you will see that inline element takes only the space it requires, and to give it a the dimensions like width and height, you have to put certain element inside that span tag, like child element, which has some physical attributes to actually give it a size. Okay, but block is someone who takes the whole row and does support the width and height element. Okay, so when I say width or height element is supported by div and not by span, it means that when you write width or height here, it is useless. So it's better not to write anything here because it's useless. It's not actually invoking or executing those and giving span the certain width or height. Okay, now let's get back to the div. Can there be two side by side div? Let's check. I'm putting it blue and red. You will see that it is not allowing and it is coming at the bottom, because each div is greedy enough to take whole area and will not give space to the another one. And blue is also greedy, so the next element will come at the bottom, something like this. Okay, so let's execute it. You see it's coming at the bottom. So what you can do is give it a new property called display inline dash block. So it's a very powerful property. It works as float left or right in some sort of way. So when I write this, you can see now they are side by side. It simply means that what you did was, let's remove it from here so that you can see the difference. See, I put display inline block in blue and green. Now they are side by side. Why? Because inline block means that in inline block, inline dash block actually, inline means to not cover the whole area and not be greedy. And block means now you can support the CSS property height and width. So you see, I did not put any child element, yet they have now physical attributes. So this is the benefit of both. If I put right here, this is a span element, this is another span element, and this is a div block, and let's say to give it a certain color, so that because they are dark colors, so I'm giving them a white font color. Now you will see which one is a span, which is one is block. So you can see this is a div, this is a span, this is a span. So this is the power of inline block. Okay. So if someone asks me that, sir, is there an alternate way instead from inline block? There are many. So let's assume we are inspecting element. The benefit of browser inspect element is that when you inspect an element, you can see inside the browser what currently there are properties on them. Okay. So I have written inline block. So if I write just inline, now see here that just inline is giving it an span, a small width or height. Why? Because we only put text inside that, which the text contains the 4 alphabets SPAN, and that covers this area only. But when I write inline block, it is covering the whole area because it has now width or height properties supported because of this block, not the inline, just block. If you look here, it contains inline and block both properties. Okay. But if I write inline flex, it's also the same thing. This inline dash flex. The difference is that they are now more developer friendly in terms that when you write inline dash flex, you can say that it is an inline flexible box, so it can be adjusted anywhere. If I just write flex, it works like this, like a div element, because this says that I will take the whole area. So flex is useless. It's inline block or inline flex. I would recommend just use inline block because inline flex does not give you a very big margin of a difference. And if you know block, inline and inline dash block, these three properties, you are going to be fine. Okay. Anyway, this was the difference between block and inline block. Let me see. Yes, give me a break. Okay, continuing back. So this was inline and inline block. Okay. Now let's coming to another thing, that is there browser compatibility issue with different tags. So let's say I'm typing input text box. Okay. So this is a text box. Okay. So it will type something here, 1 2 3, everything it can type, because text box is just a string. But when I write number, now it should only be supporting numbers. Okay, like 1 2 3, but this is supporting ABC2, but not this does not mean that all the browsers have this bug. Okay, so when I type 1 2 3 inside Chrome, it accepts the number, but it does not support any ABC. But if I write E, it accepts E character only. And this reason of E supporting is that the E is exponential, and every number can have exponent number, and etc. etc. So if we try Edge, which is now getting very advanced and very good browser, if I write here ABC, it does not support. It supports E, but it supports 1 2 3 4. So we now know there is a difference between each browser. If I type email and I run it, and you can see here it will give you a message, please enter an email address. And if I write 288, it still gives you email address. But if I now check, it will not give you any error because it's a proper format. If I write 288, it's giving you an error because each email contains only one @ symbol. Okay, so this is the difference in quality of the validation in Chrome. Now let's demonstrate the same inside that was Mozilla Firefox. Now we are opening Chrome. So if I write A and I put mouse, it will say please include an it. I put the include in it, and now it will say please enter a part following it. So it gmail.com, now it is accepted. But if I write to it will say a part following it should not contain symbol 8. So you can see how Chrome is thoroughly explaining that what kind of mistakes you are doing at each and every step. Okay, but if we check in Edge, Microsoft Edge, and let's try the same, and if I write a, and it says at the rate of it's giving you the same style of messages as given in Google Chrome. So the Mozilla is one of the Mozilla has dumbest of the email validations as compared to Chrome and Edge. So if you write date picker, password, let's say password, okay. So now let's try password. You can see it's not giving you any I or any option here, okay. But if you write, go back in the Chrome, when you write something here, okay, it's giving you nothing. And when you write in a Edge, it's giving you I, means you can see what you have written inside it. So it's giving you a better user experience and usability, okay. So it all depends that each browser has a different kind of support, and now the reason is why this is happening. Actually, each browser is designed by different developer, so each developer decides whether to put some kind of JavaScript validation by default, or user should be the one, developer should be the one designing the validation for its website, okay. So it's not good to rely on this input type is equal to password and expect that each and every browser will help you out in a validation. I would always recommend to use regular expression in JavaScript, and if you are using JavaScript, it's even better than regular expression. Okay, I hope this is very clear. So continuing, let's say now the question is, sir, there is document object model, then there is class object model, class for CSS class object model, okay. So let's say there is a div and I type style is equal to background red. Of course I have to give some physical attributes to it to create some size. So let's say width is 200 px and height is 200 px. So this is a square box. When you run it, it will give you a red box, okay. Now let's say instead of calling from external, I want to put their style tag and put separate CSS inside it, and I say let's call it through class or ID div style, and then there is this div dash style. The difference is there is underscore here, there is hyphen sign here, okay. I usually do this when I write a class between two words, I put hyphen sign, and when there is ID, I put underscore sign. So when I write when I declare a class, I have to put CSS class for it too. So let's say background green, okay, and then there is hashtag div underscore style background blue. See the difference. For class I have used dot, and for ID I have used hashtag. This is a universal rule for HTML, so there is no why this or why that, because this is constant, okay. So when you run this, it will give the priority to inline CSS. Let's check why. Yes, this is giving priority to inline CSS. Why? Because when in document object model, CSS and browser checks which one is the most closest CSS to the element that is mapped for it, okay. So the div element has been mapped with this style tag inside itself, so this will give it a priority because it is closest to that div tag. When I remove this, question raises there are two class and ID tag, okay. We know that ID is a unique, so this is for this particular div, and class is a group, and this means that this div is referenced or is a part of a div style group. There can be many different tags with the same, we can say, div style, but there cannot be ID, same ID for two different tags. So it would work like something like this. Okay, so when I run this, you will see the difference that the second div element will be background green, but the first one will be blue. Okay, so sorry, my bad, I haven't put this width and height property here. Okay, so putting in both, now run. Okay, you say top is blue and down is green. Why? Because ID is more unique than class. So the DOM checks what is the most unique style or unique identifier given to certain tag, and it gives priority to that. So the ID is most unique, so this will not execute the class div dash style, but ID div underscore style will be given the priority. So it works something like this. So this is useless here. Class is equal to div dash style. It's completely useless until or unless there are certain elements like in div style that are not an ID. So if I write here, give it a margin of 20 px. So margin is basically means from outer boundaries give 20 pixel space. So you can see the difference here. Now because of this, every div dash style that every tag that has div dash style reference is given the margin of 20 px, 20 px. But the background color is original, which is in div dash style or div underscore style ID tag, that is blue. So this means that the priority is given based on the hierarchical level. So if I talk about hierarchical level, so let's talk about it. So it's something like this. Okay, so this is a pyramids. At the top level it's ID, inline, then there is ID tag, then there is class tag. The DOM looks at top to down approach. Okay, like this. Okay, so this is the correct way. Let me put it like this. So this is the right way. If you are thinking about it giving in a bottom to top approach, then you are entirely wrong. Okay, so something like this. So this is the case. So we now know that if you want a very high priority CSS, then it should be like this. See, the last thing the one thing I want to repeat, because I don't want the students to get confused. Margin is given to the CSS class named div dash style, but margin is not given to div underscore style, which is the part of an ID tag. Okay, so in browser and when we talk about the web design, it does not entirely override the whole CSS class. We have two classes here, div dash style and div underscore style, but they are identified based on their ID and class tag. Okay, so it only overrides those that are that are present in both. You can say like it does intersection in the, I hope you remember the mathematics sets, and in set there is this intersect and union. So what it does is intersection. When we talk about ID tag, so what it does is that it checks both of this ID and class and intersects the same properties from both area. So these will be kept here. So it will be something like this: div underscore style intersect div dash style. So it will take only unique property of div dash style, and that will be not the width, not height, and this only. Okay, so this will be add here, and this will be how it will be executed for the top tag. So you can see the blue has both the things, but for the bottom one, since it is only class and it does not contain ID, so it will support only these properties that are part of the dash style. I hope that my English is not very confusing and you are getting the point here. Okay, so let's continue. So this is how the hierarchy level works. Now to the inline versus sorry, there is one more, that is div tag. We can call or make a CSS class based on the tag name. So if I write background yellow, it will not execute at all. Why? Because div is the least priority given tag. So now we know that there is something worse than class, or not worse than, the least priority class that is based on the element tag, and that is tag name. Like if you are applying CSS to all the inputs in the web page, then you will write something like this input. So that is this sort of the you can say architecture of the HTML design. And when you write something in external CSS which we draw in the beginning, so it should be, even if it's hash div style and you write background Indian bread, this is a different bread than normal bread. Okay, so div underscore style, sorry, yes. So let's run it. You see it's still blue. Why? Because the priority is not like that. Inline, then you then you have the in document priority, means style tag, but in same document. Then you have external CSS. So when we talk about documents, it goes something like this. When we talk about IDs and elements of the HTML, it goes something like this. Sorry, something like this. So it would be something like this. When we talk about documents, it will go from, after inline, the highest priority is given to the same document, and inside the same document there is a style tag, then there is external tag. Now this is very obvious. Something that is very far and not in the same document, it should be given least priority, because we are talking about the performance of execution. Okay. So now, is there something that is missing? Yes, one thing is missing. You can override everything. However, you know that this is the least priority tag in the whole HTML history or architecture. You can give it a priority at the topmost level by introducing a new property called important. When you write this, it means that kindly give it a priority. So let's execute this. Now both will be yellow. Why? Because it does not care anymore that whether this has ID tag, it has class tag or everything. It says please give the background yellow important from the div class tag. So when someone asks you, sir, you are not putting important here, then why it's giving priority to div tag? Well, I told you it's all about sets. It compares all these different CSS classes and checks which one has the highest priority, then takes those properties from each of those classes that are unique and then apply to it. So this important is unique and this background is now unique, and it will reject this and apply this. So this is a very common thing to know, but I hope this was a very informative tutorial for you guys. And after doing everything, let's come back to, I'm cleaning this document so that it's easier for you to understand. Now you have heard word responsive, and each and every website behaves differently. For example, this is zfm.org and I'm putting it in emulator. You can see this is how it will look in iPhone 10R, and this is actually I got scared myself. Okay. So Pixel 5, and if we talk about Surface Pro Duo 7, and if I put it something like this, everything is fine. But when we talk about some folding phone, Galaxy Fold, and I say put it in the folding style, so this is how it will look. So right now ZFM site is not supported by folding phone. Okay, so let's talk about iPad Air. This is how it will look in iPad Mini. This is how it will look in Nest Hub. Now of course we can't target each and every device, but we will make sure it does not look bad on each device. Even on Surface Pro Duo, you can see here, if I put it in the dual screen, it's showing very beautifully that it's not actually hampering the design. But when I talk about Galaxy Fold, it's total disaster. But fine, it does not actually make this experience totally bad, but it is bad nonetheless. Okay. So to support each and every device, you just don't directly write special CSS media queries, which will be learned later. We have to declare that this application is actually supported for you can say different devices, right? So let's go to W3 school and check responsive as per HTML responsive. I actually forget some of the commands from meta tags, so I'm writing here. So this code simply means that this whole monitor, you can see, you can slowly see my mouse pointer. This is the whole screen of the laptop. Okay. So it says that when you squeeze this application like in browser, so it should adjust itself. Now this one has a meta tag. Okay. Let's say here you can see this is a meta tag. This is the reason why it knows that even though I'm in a monitor, it knows that currently I'm emulating it as a mobile phone, so it is giving this total width as a mobile width. So when it says width is equal to device width, means that if you are currently in a mobile, then the width of the application should be equal to total width of the application should be equal to the device's width. So if 10R is here, we can see the 10R width is 414 pixels, so the website's whole width will be 414 pixels, and vice versa. So it is important to write this when you are talking about media query. I hope this total lecture was informative. I have recorded in 10 minutes or 7 minutes different groups. So if you see some hiccups between the video, assume that this is actually the new video that I have combined with the older video. Okay. I hope everything will be clear to you guys.